Story number 1. Fitting room. I was holding a navy wrap dress against my chest, studying the way the fabric caught the light in the fitting room mirror when I heard the front door lock. Not the soft click of a latch, but the heavy metallic thunk of a deadbolt sliding home. I glanced at my phone on the bench. 4:30 in the afternoon. The boutique closed at 4:45. "Sorry about that," the sales associate called from the front. Her voice had that same bright, apologetic tone she'd used when she'd brought me 3 different sizes 20 minutes earlier. "Just securing the register before we finish up. Take your time." I relaxed. That made sense. This was an upscale place, the kind of boutique where they kept the good jewelry in the window and probably counted the till before locking up for real. I'd seen her moving between customers all afternoon with that efficient, practiced smile. She was probably just being careful. I unzipped the dress and hung it back on its padded hanger. Too formal for a school function anyway. The price tag said $230, which was more than I usually spent, but I'd be looking for something nice for my sister's wedding in June. I pulled my own shirt off the hook and started working the buttons. That's when I heard the second voice, male, low, coming from somewhere in the back of the store. I stopped with my fingers on the third button and listened. The boutique had been quiet for the last 10 minutes, just me and the associate. I hadn't heard anyone else come in. I hadn't heard the door chime at all since she'd locked it. The voice said something I couldn't make out. Then the associate responded, her tone different now, clipped, businesslike. Not the customer service voice she'd been using all afternoon. My hand went still on the curtain. I'd been about to pull it back and step out, but something made me pause. The associate had never mentioned anyone else being here. Not another employee, not a manager doing inventory, just her, cheerfully helping me find the right size, commenting on how the color would look good with my complexion. I leaned closer to the gap between the curtain and the wall, trying to see into the main store without moving the fabric. Footsteps, deliberate, moving from the back hallway toward the front. "The one in back," the male voice said. "Clearer now." Matter of fact, check her bag. My stomach dropped. I turned my head slowly, looking at the bench where I'd left my purse. My wallet was in there, my phone, my keys with the address tag my mother had insisted I attach last Christmas. Every piece of information someone would need. The footsteps stopped somewhere near the register. I pressed my eye to the gap in the curtain. A man stood 15 feet away with his back partially to me, wearing dark jeans and a gray hoodie. He was holding my purse, not rifling through it frantically, but methodically removing items one by one. My wallet, my phone, my keys. He set each on the counter with careful precision, like he was cataloging them. The sales associate stood near the fitting rooms, her arms crossed, watching the hallway where I was hidden. Her expression was flat, bored almost, like she'd done this before. I pulled back from the gap and looked up. The ceiling panel above the bench was the standard drop ceiling type, the kind you see in every commercial building. Acoustic tile in a metal grid. I'd noticed it earlier without thinking about it, the way you notice exit signs or fire extinguishers. I stepped onto the bench as quietly as I could. My hands were shaking. I pushed the panel up and to the side, wincing at the faint scrape of tile against metal. The space above was dark, crisscrossed with support beams and ductwork. Insulation hung in loose strips. Behind me, the associate said, "She's been in there a while." I grabbed the metal grid with both hands and pulled myself up. My arms burned. I teach second grade. I'm not strong, but fear does strange things to your body. I got my elbows onto the beam, then my knee, then I was up, crouched in the narrow space between the ceiling and the roof, trying not to put my full weight on anything that looked like it might crack. Below me, I heard the curtain of my fitting room slide open. I didn't wait to hear what they said. I moved across the beams on my hands and knees, testing each section before I shifted my weight. The crawl space stretched in both directions. To my right, I could see light filtering through panels above what had to be the boutique stockroom. To my left, darkness, the vacant storefront. I'd parked near it on my way in, noticed the "for lease" sign in the window. If the ceiling was continuous, if I could get there without falling through. I crawled left, moving as quickly as I dared. Dust coated my palms, something sharp dug into my knee. I could hear voices below me, muffled now, moving through the boutique. The associate was saying something about checking the back exit. The beam beneath my left hand shifted slightly, and I froze. Sweat ran down my spine. I redistributed my weight and kept moving. It took maybe 2 minutes to cross into the space above the vacant store. It felt like 20. When I finally saw the edge where the boutique ceiling ended and the empty stores began, I almost sobbed with relief. I found a panel above what looked like a bare concrete floor and pushed it aside. The drop was about 8 feet. I hung from the grid, let go, and hit the ground hard enough to knock the wind out of my lungs. The store was completely empty. No shelves, no counters, just stained carpet and the smell of old paint. Afternoon light came through the front windows, illuminating a space that had probably been a clothing store once, maybe a phone outlet. I ran for the back corner where the emergency exit sign glowed red above a metal door. I hit the push bar with both hands. The alarm was immediate and deafening, a shrieking pulse that filled the empty store and spilled out into the parking lot as I stumbled into the sunlight. I kept running, past the dumpsters, past the loading zone, toward the cluster of cars near the grocery store at the other end of the strip mall. I looked back once. The boutique's back door was opening. The man in the grey hoodie stepped out, his hand shading his eyes as he scanned the parking lot. He was holding something. My phone, I realized. He was looking at my phone. I ducked behind a minivan and kept moving. The police came to my apartment that night. I'd called from the grocery store, borrowed a phone from the manager after I explained I'd been robbed. They took a statement. They went to the boutique, but it was empty by then. The register cleaned out, no sign of the associate or the man. The owner, when they reached him, said he'd been out of town. He didn't recognize the woman I described. He'd hired her through an online service 2 weeks ago. The detective called me 2 days later and asked if I could come to the station. She showed me a laptop screen, a forum, the kind with a black background and anonymous usernames. The post was 4 hours old. Photographs of my driver's license, front and back, my credit cards lined up in a neat row, my house keys on my kitchen counter, the address tag clearly visible. Everything had been in my purse. Everything had been photographed in the 5 minutes between when I climbed into that ceiling and when I hit the alarm. We're monitoring the thread, the detective said. Sometimes they sell the information. Sometimes they just share it. She scrolled down. There were replies, dozens of them. Some were just numbers. Some were addresses I didn't recognize. Some were in languages I couldn't read. We flagged your accounts, she continued. Changed the alert parameters on your credit. But you should consider staying somewhere else for a while, just until we know more. I'm at my sister's house now. I've been here for 6 days. I changed my locks. I filed the police reports. I check that forum every night on a borrowed laptop, looking for updates, looking for my face, looking for any indication that someone knows where I am. The post is still there. The replies keep coming. And sometimes, late at night, I think about that sales associate's expression. How bored she looked, how routine, like I was the 5th person that week, like she'd be back at it tomorrow, in another boutique, in another strip mall, smiling at another customer and asking what size they needed. Story number 2, inspection window. I'm working at my desk when someone knocks hard on my apartment door at 9:30 in the morning. The sound cuts through the quiet in a way that makes me flinch. I'd been staring at the same logo design for 2 hours, my lower back already aching from the chair, and the interruption is almost welcome. Through the peephole, I see a man in a reflective safety vest holding a clipboard. He's maybe 50, clean-shaven, wearing a baseball cap with some kind of city seal on it. I open the door, and he's already talking. Says he's from the city building inspection office doing routine safety checks. Something about updated fire code compliance. He shows me a laminated ID badge hanging from a lanyard, the kind with a photo and a barcode. It looks official enough. The hallway behind him reeks of fresh paint, that sharp chemical smell that gets in your throat, and I assume that's why he's here. Maybe the landlord finally got around to fixing the water damage on the 3rd floor, and it triggered some kind of inspection requirement. I let him in. He walks through my living room first, making notes on his clipboard. He's methodical about it. Checks the smoke detector by standing under it and looking up. Runs his hand along the window frame in the living room, opens and closes the front door twice, like he's testing the hinges. I stand near the kitchen counter watching him, trying not to feel like I'm in the way in my own apartment. He asks how long I've lived here, and I tell him 3 years. He nods and writes something down. Then he asks to see the bedroom and bathroom. I hesitate for just a second because the bedroom is where I keep most of my expensive equipment, the backup hard drives and the camera gear I use for product shoots, but I tell myself I'm being paranoid. He's doing his job. I lead him down the short hallway. In the bedroom, he spends a long time at the window. He unlocks it, slides it up a few inches, peers out at the fire escape, then closes it again and examines the locking mechanism closely. Takes out his phone and snaps several photos. I'm standing in the doorway and I ask if there's a problem with the lock. He says no, just documenting the type for the report. But the way he's looking at it feels less like inspection and more like memorization. Like he's studying how it works. He asks what hours I'm usually out of the apartment. The question comes casually while he's crouched down looking at the baseboard, but it lands wrong. I feel my shoulders tense. I tell him my schedule varies since I work from home. Freelance, I add, like that explains anything. He glances at my desk in the corner, at the 2 monitors and the laptop and the graphics tablet, and nods slowly. Do you live alone? He asks. The apartment suddenly feels smaller. I'm aware of how quiet it is, how the paint smell from the hallway has followed him inside, how I don't actually know this man or whether that ID was real. I tell him I'm expecting my partner soon, which is a lie. I haven't dated anyone in over a year, but something about the question makes me want him to think I'm not alone here. He straightens up quickly, says he has enough for the report. Starts moving toward the door with a purposeful stride that wasn't there before. I follow him back through the living room and he's already putting his clipboard under his arm, already reaching for the doorknob. He hands me a business card and says I can call if I have questions about the inspection timeline. Then he's gone, the door closing behind him, his footsteps echoing down the stairwell. I stand there holding the card. It has the city seal printed on it, a name, a phone number. Everything looks correct, but my hands are shaking slightly and I don't know why. I walk back to my desk and sit down, but I can't focus on the logo anymore. The apartment feels different now. Exposed. I keep thinking about the way he photographed the window lock, the way he asked about my schedule. I tell myself I'm being ridiculous. Building inspectors have to ask questions, they have to take photos. That's the job. But I pull out my phone anyway and search for the city building inspection website. It takes a few minutes to navigate to the right department to find the section on residential inspections. When I do, my stomach drops. All routine inspections require 48 hours advance notice to tenants. Inspectors must be accompanied by building management or provide a specific appointment confirmation number. They never come alone. I look at the business card again, call the number. It rings once and goes to a generic voicemail saying the number is disconnected. I'm on my feet now, pacing between the kitchen and the living room. I photograph the business card with my phone, then call my landlord. It goes to voicemail. I leave a message asking if he authorized any inspections today, trying to keep my voice steady. Then I call the non-emergency police line. The dispatcher takes my information, says an officer will follow up, asks if I feel in immediate danger. I say no, because what am I going to say? A man looked at my window lock wrong. I spend the rest of the day unable to work. I check the window locks 3 times. I search online for scams involving fake inspectors, but find nothing specific. By evening, I've almost convinced myself I overreacted. Maybe the website information is outdated. Maybe the phone number was mistyped on the card. Maybe I'm just tired and my back hurts and I'm looking for problems that aren't there. That night, I'm heating up leftover soup when I hear sirens below. Multiple vehicles, the lights flashing blue and red through my window. I go out into the stairwell and find my neighbor from down the hall, an older woman named Patricia, standing on the landing looking down. She tells me the second-floor corner unit was broken into. The tenant came home from dinner and found the bedroom window forced open, laptop and jewelry gone. Patricia says the police told her the lock was bypassed using specific knowledge of the frame type, like someone knew exactly how it worked. I feel cold all over. I tell Patricia about the inspector, about the photos he took, the questions he asked. She stares at me and says no one came to her door, says she's been home all day. I go back inside and lock the door, push a chair under the handle, even though I know it won't do much. I check the window again. The lock looks flimsy now, inadequate. I think about the man standing right where I'm standing, studying it with his phone out. I think about him asking when I'm usually gone. I don't sleep much. Every sound in the building seems louder than it should be. Footsteps in the stairwell. A door closing somewhere above. The wind rattling the fire escape. In the morning there's a voicemail from a police officer asking me to call back about my report. I do, and I tell him everything. He says they're investigating, says to call immediately if I see the man again, says to consider upgrading my locks. He doesn't say whether they think it's connected to the break-in downstairs, but I can hear it in his voice. He thinks it is. I'm sitting at my desk now trying to work, but I keep looking at the bedroom doorway, keep thinking about how easily I let him in, how I stood there and watched him photograph everything he needed. The city seal on his hat looked real. The clipboard looked real. Everything looked real. The paint smell is gone from the hallway now. Whatever work they were doing is finished, but the apartment still doesn't feel right. I keep waiting for another knock on the door. Story number 3, dental chair. I pulled into the gravel parking lot at 5:30 on Saturday evening, relieved I had finally found a dentist taking new patients. The building was a converted Victorian house, painted pale yellow, with a small wooden sign out front that read, Riverside Family Dental. Only one sedan sat in the lot besides mine, which made sense for a weekend appointment. Most practices probably ran skeleton crews on Saturdays to keep costs down. The waiting room still had crown molding and a fireplace mantel, though someone had installed commercial carpeting and arranged plastic chairs along the walls. A woman in scrubs sat behind a sliding glass window, typing on a computer. She looked up when I approached. "First-time patient?" she asked. "Yes, I have a 5:30 cleaning." She slid a clipboard through the window without much ceremony. "Hygienist called in sick, so Dr. Brennan will be doing the cleaning himself today. Just fill these out." I took the forms to one of the plastic chairs. The intake paperwork was standard, asking about medications and previous dental work. I had just started on the second page when I heard the receptionist's chair scrape back. She grabbed her purse from under the desk and walked past me toward the front door. "Have a good night," I said reflexively. She did not respond. The door closed behind her, and I heard her car start in the parking lot. I looked down at my half-finished forms, pen hovering over a question about bleeding gums. It seemed odd that she would leave while I was still filling out paperwork, but maybe weekend staff worked shortened hours. The practice was probably trying to save money on labor. I finished the forms and walked back to the window. The office behind it was empty now, just the humming computer monitor casting blue light on the desk. I stood there for a moment, unsure what to do, then noticed a doorway to my left with a sign that said, "Treatment Rooms." "Hello?" I called. "Come on back." The voice came from somewhere down the hallway. I pushed through the door into a narrow corridor with floral wallpaper that had probably been there since the house was built. 3 doors stood open along the left side. The overhead lights were fluorescent and too bright, making everything look washed out. A man appeared in the third doorway. He was thin, maybe late 40s, wearing wire-rimmed glasses and a white coat over a blue button-down shirt. "You must be the 5:30. I'm Dr. Brennan. Nice to meet you." I handed him the clipboard. He glanced at the forms without really reading them. "First cleaning in a while?" "About a year. I moved here for work and it took me a while to find someone taking new patients." "Well, we are happy to have you." He gestured into the treatment room. "Have a seat and we will get started." The room was small, with the dental chair positioned under a large overhead light. A rolling tray sat nearby with instruments laid out on a paper covering. I settled into the chair and he adjusted it backward, then swung the overhead light into position. It flickered once before steadying. "Just going to apply some topical anesthetic," he said, opening a small jar. "This will numb your gums so the cleaning is more comfortable." He used a cotton swab to spread something across my gums. The taste hit immediately, bitter and chemical, burning my tongue and the back of my throat. I had been to the dentist dozens of times and never experienced anything like it. The sensation was wrong, acidic, making my eyes water. "Is it supposed to burn like that?" I tried to ask, but my tongue was already thickening. "Everyone reacts differently," he said, not looking at me. He was preparing something else on the tray, his back turned. My mouth grew numb quickly, that heavy, dead feeling spreading across my lips and gums. I tried to swallow, but my throat felt strange, partially unresponsive. The overhead light flickered again, and in the unstable illumination, I noticed the instruments on the tray more clearly. Several of them had dark discoloration along the edges, rust or staining that seemed impossible for tools that should be sterilized. I wanted to ask about it, but my lips would not form words properly. He turned back toward me, holding a small mirror and a metal pick. The pick had the same dark staining near the tip. "Open wide," he said. I did not open my mouth. Instead, I tried to speak around the numbness. "What kind of anesthetic did he use?" His expression shifted, something hardening behind the wire-rimmed glasses. "Standard topical." "Why?" "It burned. And those tools, look." I could not finish the sentence clearly. "Look what?" His voice had changed, flatter now. "Dirty. They look dirty." He set the instruments down with deliberate care. "I assure you everything is properly sterilized. Now if you would just open your mouth so we can proceed. I want to see your credentials." The words came out slurred but understandable. He went very still. "You signed a waiver when you came in." I did not finish the paperwork. The receptionist left before I. "You need to stay still." He reached for something on the counter behind him. "I am going to give you a mild sedative to help you relax." He turned back, holding a syringe, and that was when my body made the decision my numbed mind was still processing. I lurched sideways in the chair, spitting out the cotton rolls he had placed in my cheeks. My face felt like rubber, unresponsive, but I got my feet under me and stumbled toward the door. "Wait," he said sharply. "You are making a serious mistake." I did not wait. I half ran down the hallway, my legs working better than my face, one hand trailing along the floral wallpaper for balance. Behind me I heard his footsteps, measured and unhurried. The waiting room was empty, just those plastic chairs and the cold fireplace. I grabbed the front door handle and yanked it open, then ran across the gravel parking lot to my car. My hand shook so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. In the rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the doorway of the building, watching. I drove 2 blocks before I had to pull over. My whole body was shaking now, the partial numbness in my face making everything feel unreal. I found my phone and dialed 911. "What is your emergency? I need to report something at Riverside Family Dental." I gave the address, my words still slurred. "The dentist there, something is wrong. The tools were dirty and he tried to inject me with something and—" "What is the address again?" The dispatcher's voice had changed. I repeated it. There was a pause. "Ma'am, can you tell me exactly what happened?" I went through it again, hearing how unhinged I sounded. When I finished, the dispatcher was quiet for a long moment. "Ma'am, I am sending an officer to your location. Stay in your car." 20 minutes later, a patrol car pulled up behind me. The officer was older, with grey hair and a weathered face. He took my statement while sitting in his passenger seat, writing everything down in a small notebook. When I finished, he stopped writing and looked at me. "The real Dr. Brennan was reported missing 3 weeks ago," he said quietly. "We found his body this morning, in the basement crawl space of that building." I stared at him, my partially numb face making it hard to process the expression I should be wearing. "We have been looking for whoever was operating out of that office," he continued, "using his identity, seeing patients." He paused. "You are very lucky you left when you did.